What is going on, everybody? It is Before the Show with Telos and Co. And I am here with Case and Roberto from Ice Lemonade. And I am your host, Nick Sands, the very handsome, the very talented, and all around a fun person, or so I'm told. Guys, how's it going today?
Great.
Not too bad. How about yourself?
I'm doing wonderful, thank you. So, just real quick, if you guys were to crash land on a desert island, who would get eaten first, do you think?
That's up to you, man.
Yeah, that's very true because I'm the boss. So I'm gonna kind of just say it's him.
Yeah.
I like that you were like, do I want to kill myself and then be eaten rather than live on a desert island? As a fellow big boy, I'm going to tell you it's going to happen within the first hour and a half probably, right?
That's what everyone's gonna say. But then they'll realize you're the only one that read the manuals.
All right, so why don't you give us a little bit of a short origin story for your band? Who are you guys? What brought you together? How did you start making music? And what brought you to where we're sitting today?
So this band actually started quite a years back. This was around when I was still in Texas, and I was trying to pursue my rap career. I can also give you like the long story of where the name came from, or I can give you the short version. Either one's okay.
Just whatever you want to do, baby.
Sweet. Came up to me in a dream, and I thought it was funny, so kept it.
All right.
And then, after a while, I came up here, decided to study, realized rap is not my thing anymore. It's still awesome. Don't get me wrong. Still love rap music, but performing it, just nothing came out of it. So when I decided to switch to punk music, I was like, no. This works. I got this. I can do this. So started writing some songs, got some people together, and then, as we formed, some people came in, some people left. And then Case came in at one point, and so far he's been our man on a guitar.
Were you gonna?
I came in early November of last year.
Yeah.
I was looking for just a music project to join, and I discovered their band mix profile, and that's how I reached out to them, and they took me in, and it was all was good.
So you started off as a rap career in Texas.
Yeah.
What was that like? And how did you get started there?
So I was learning classical and jazz and all that stuff because I was doing community college.
The pipeline from classical and jazz to rap really needs to be studied.
Yeah, because I wanted to do I didn't know them at the time, but I wanted to do a Tribe Called Quest kind of thing where it would be jazz samples, but then I just rap over that. And I thought, yeah, this is going to be sick, and I'm just going to do that. And then when I came up here and they were like, okay, let's write something down. I'm like, cool. And I just blanked and I got nothing because I had some people help me out, figure out what to listen to for inspiration and everything. But while I was trying to write stuff, I was like, I can't come up with anything. It's just not working. Samples I can make, the music and whatnot, I can make pretty well, but lyrically, nah, kid, that ain't it. So then when I was playing around with some other genres and whatnot, got into punk music, and I was like, you know what? Yeah, this works. Because then I started writing, and everything just kept coming to me. So I was like, nah, this is the one.
And Case, why don't you tell us how you got started on guitar?
When I was in 7th grade, I had no hobbies. I was a video game kid. I would sit on the couch, play Mario on the Wii, and I really just had nothing. And otherwise, I was watching TV, watching Family Guy on Netflix when that was still a thing. And my parents said, well, if you don't figure out something, we're going to ground you. And rightfully so, and I'm glad they did. My best friend forever was, he had just started playing guitar. And so I was like, okay, well, why don't I just start playing guitar as well? And so I did. And at first I wasn't into it. I will always say for any instrument, the first year is the worst year. And that was certainly the case for me. And after I learned Basket Case by Green Day, that was it. And through the years, I've been in and out of punk music. I would say during middle school and early high school, I was very much into the pop punk thing, Blink-182, Green Day, Weezer, Sum 41, MCR, Offspring, Then I got into, classic rock and sort of dad butt rock, that kind of thing. My favorite band of all time is the Foo Fighters. I love the Foo Fighters. And I wanted to learn those kinds of songs because at that point I was starting to get into bands and we were like, okay, I can't just do the pop punk thing. So then it was that. And then I was sort of into a little bit of technical stuff. And that kind of influenced me to get better on guitar, not just learn, rhythm, do the fast, chunky chords. And then college, I fell out of the punk thing for a very long time because I was doing their ensembles. I was a part of their rock, blues, and fusion ensembles. The rock the longest for sure. And then my final semester, I did all three of those because it was directed by the same professor. And that semester, I wasn't listening to music for enjoyment. I was listening to music because I had to learn to play it. And otherwise I was doing homework. And, after college, I got back into the whole punk thing, and I've been listening to a lot of, more emo music again, like MCR and Sunny Day, Real Estate, and Boxcar Racer.
So how did you end up finding them? You said you found them on like Mix-a-Lot or something, but like, were you seeking a project? Were you like, was that the intention of going on there looking for it, or did you just happen to find their music and like it and reach out to them and they were like, hey, we need somebody?
I was looking for something, yeah, because at that point I was exiting a couple bands that were just doing covers around here, and I didn't want to do that anymore. It got to the point where I was playing Man, I Feel Like a Woman by Shania Twain, and I just didn't want to do that anymore. So I was like, okay, I got to travel to Boston to play some original music with people my age. And yeah, I found them, and I was like, yeah, I'm into this music. And I forget exactly what they said their influences were on the profile, but that was a big thing for me, was seeing that and going, yeah, I want to be a part of this.
I would just like to say that anyone who says that they couldn't run through a wall after listening to Shania Twain say, "Go Get 'Em Girls" in that song is a liar. Nothing hypes you up like that, you know what I'm saying? Roberto, what was it like having someone come in? So like did you already have all the music developed? Was it already like a thing? And then you have this young upstart come in and try to and be a part of your band. Is that like intimidating? Is it scary to pass off that kind of, to delegate like that?
Yeah, so almost all the music has already like been written and everything, because like when you listen to it like on the SoundCloud and whatnot, it's usually me playing everything except for drums. And on the EP that we have, like I recorded all the demos and whatnot, but I had friends come in and record the parts. So that's why like you'll hear like a female vocalist, or you'll hear the omnichord, even though like at the time I didn't have one.
What's an omnichord?
It's like a little electric harp that you can play. Set it to different sounds. But
nothing screams punk rock like a tiny electric harp.
Yeah, dude. It's so sick. Because someone brought it in. They were like, hey, can I try omnichord on something? And I was like, sure. And then I heard it and I was like, okay, I need it. So yeah, we had everything already set up and everything. Like we even played like a few shows and whatnot. But the guitar players we had, they were just like, yeah, I don't want to. I'm done.
Right.
And I was like, cool, thanks. So when Case reached out, I was like, okay, well, let's try it out. And the piano player we had at the time just messed everything up. So our reservation, like for our room, couldn't work.
Oh my God, I remember this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What happened?
So the piano player, who was also like our spare drummer, he was reserving a room for like at the rehearsal studio we used. In order to get in, you have to like show their ID, the people who reserve it. Yeah, he lost it.
Yeah,
Like,
I was so
day of.
mad. I was so mad.
So you had driven down multiple hours to get to Boston.
Yeah, for an audition.
For an audition, and then you couldn't even get in the room.
Yeah.
Yeah, and mind you, like if this was early in the morning or the day before, I would have like happily rescheduled. But nah, he told me this like what, 15 minutes before the rehearsal. So I was like, you better figure something out. And it wasn't like super ideal, but I also, optioned, let's just practice in the little lobby area because nobody's going to care. That wasn't going to work out. So we just honestly just went to my house just really, really fast and just did an audition right then and there.
Yep.
And how were you feeling after that?
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You weren't like pissed? Like, was it a weird...
Because we figured it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was less than ideal, but we figured it out.
Oh, that's a good point. So you were not pleased with what had happened, but the fact that they were willing to like still go around and do the thing was told you that this is a band that you wanted to be a part of.
It was mainly the music and his attitude about it. And he's been, I'd say this is my favorite quality about you. He has been so considerate of literally of my time and schedule, and anyone who's ever been a part of this project that I've seen come in and out. That's it told me it's like, okay, let's see where this goes. And I think for a lot of musicians, myself included, it always takes like, okay, let's do a few rehearsals, let's do a gig, let's do maybe the first gig is an idea. Okay, let's see until the next gig. Is this trend going to repeat? Nothing has ever repeated itself in terms of like, oh, this is not ideal. It's always been like, luck of the draw, dude. This is the way it is when you're trying to make a band with younger people who have lives, especially lives revolving around education, and trying to get schedules to match because everyone's different, and trying to get rehearsal time is also incredibly difficult. So
was it intimidating coming into a situation where like all the music was already made, all of the like stuff was already done?
No, that just makes it easier because it makes it easier for me to learn it in advance. I don't get super intimidated by when I have to enter a situation musically where it's like, okay, we don't know what's going on. The only time I ever really get nervous is when I perform live in a new place where I've never been before to a bigger crowd that I've ever had before. Yeah, that's really the only time I actually get nervous now, because I think sorry, I forget where I was going with that.
That's okay.
I knew that was going to happen at some point during this conversation. Sorry.
For you, is it weird going from... Sorry, Case, I don't mean to keep hammering you here, but is it weird going from like working in a college, you're working on like these ensembles, like you're doing all this stuff that you're probably playing to like big, quiet crowds in like, in an auditorium. Is it weird going from that to playing like small shows at bars or, in a more in a less controlled scene?
No. And I think that's because at the same time that I was doing all three ensembles when I was in my final semester, I was also a part of this other original band called the Lotus Heads, which I'm no longer a part of now. And I got used to the whole DIY basement gig thing just by playing it with them. And of course, like, okay, you're not staring at this big space where there's people, all eyes on you. It's this small controlled space where it's like, okay, everyone's trying to get together and just listen to music, especially original stuff. It's like the way you play it is the way that they think it's supposed to be, right? It's not like you're playing covers and everyone knows the song, and if you screw up, they know, So, joining these guys, I was excited. I was excited to be able to play small gigs and just get in front of crowds consistently. And that's one of the most exciting things about being a part of this band is it's the first original band that I've been a part of where gigs are regular, very, very regular.
Going back to Roberto, so you were here obviously from the beginning, the inception. You created the band. Do you remember in like the early days, what was like the struggles of like putting this thing together?
The biggest struggle, honestly, was trying to just get people to like come and play it, because that's kind of just the thing, man. Like everyone, like from what I've understand so far, it's either, hey, I want to be in your band, but I want, all the gigs we play to pay. And I tell everyone, we're barely starting up, man. That's not happening. It's that, or like in the early days, for example, we hadn't had a drummer for a very long time, or we didn't have a guitar player for a really long time, so couldn't get gigs. And then other musicians would be like, hey man, we need something that needs gigs, man. Like, what's the deal? And I'm like, are you gonna be sticking around? I don't know what to tell you, man. There's a struggle of that, and also and I guess we'll go later when we talk like about the music itself. But like when it was first starting, because I was kind of like still newish to mixing and mastering. Admittedly, I understand they weren't super mixed really well, and I'm currently working to remaster it so we can get on like major platforms and whatnot. That, and because it's like people want apples or want oranges, and I have this deformed dragon fruit over here. Everyone's always like yeah, it's not my thing, or yeah, I don't know, man, it doesn't sound that great, or man, you should just do this, or you should like totally just change the words because I don't like it. And I'm like, you gonna help? And they're like, nah.
And so what kept you going through what kept you pushing through that? It sounds like you actually faced quite a bit of adversity.
Oh, a lot.
From people.
Every time we've played a show, and Casey, if you want to jump in right after, like by all means, because it's always nice to get another view on it. But almost every time we played a show, and we've always had a crowd, every single time, people have either said like, dude, that was a great fucking set. Dude, you should just do the originals and don't bother with covers anymore. We get people to sing along to the originals. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, damn. Honestly, I never even thought even one song of mine would be relatively somewhat good. But to get a whole bunch of them and people are like, we want that. Damn, man, you can't buy that fucking feeling, dude.
No, you can't.
Apologies if you can't swear.
No, please swear as much as you fucking want.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, I forget. It was at the Lily Pad. And it was after our gig there, and he came to me and he was like, we should just cut out the covers. And I'm like, yeah, let's just cut out the covers, dude. The originals just do a lot better. And I that makes me very excited because it means the music's actually getting somewhere. Yeah, it's super awesome when you get a crowd that really gets the music. And it's different. It's different. I mean, how would you describe us?
That's the one part I'm still figuring out to this day. Not in like the negative way, but in that like, because everyone's always asking me like you're supposed to sound like this thing or this thing, but many times when I ask people and I send them music like, hey, what do we sound like? Because I want to get an idea. They're like, I don't know.
So to me,
or go ahead.
So I actually, one of the things that I really found interesting about you guys is you are very genre defying. So like you have the melodic vocals, and like some of your songs are like I would consider like punk vocals, but really it's like you have melodic vocals and then you always have like I don't know, like a Descendants kind of vibe maybe, like the vocals are just they're not well polished, and they're not like I don't believe that you were professionally or classically trained in singing. Is that accurate to say?
Yeah.
Like it's a different sound, but it's not bad, it's just different. And then you have like rock guitar, and then you have like punk backbeats is kind of how I kind of picked up on it. It's very interesting, and it's not like anything else that's out there. Absolutely. I found it to be very good. I found it to be like, it kept me listening, and also it kept me going back and listening again, because I was like, oh, that was like, it's different. It's not, there is no, like you said, like there's apples, there's oranges, and then you got like this deformed dragon fruit. And it's like kind of refreshing to have something where you don't necessarily know where it came from or like who sort of influenced it. Because in the traditional sense, I wouldn't call it punk. Like you're not, there's one song I think where you're like screaming, but other than that, it was like a lot of like almost like spoken kind of singing, or like more like just like less sing-songy. But then some of your songs were kind of like poppy too, right? So like when you said you had brought in some like female vocalists to help you, like when they were singing, it was like kind of poppy. And then like with your like Case, your guitar, or whoever was doing the recording, there's almost like rock and roll solos in every single song, right? So like, which is not something you hear in a lot of punk songs. You don't get like a ton of guitar solos. So it is almost like, one of the things I really admire about what you guys have done here is that like it feels like right now in music, like there's like 50 million genres, right? It's like you can play everything from fucking dwarf metal to like, like these extremely niche subgenres of music, and whereas you guys just seem like you're playing what you like or what you think is fun or what you think sounds good, and like you're not putting any real consideration into like what you should be playing to appeal to a certain group of people. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, because even when we started like writing, or when I started writing like new songs, part of me did want to start doing that, where like, oh, I'm gonna sound more like the Descendants, or I'm gonna sound more like Post Malone or something. But then as I'm writing, I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna do that. This sounds better, and I'm just gonna do that.
What I think is really interesting about that is that you, right, like you're not Post Malone. You know what I mean? Like no matter, you can try as hard as you want, you'll never be Post Malone.
Yeah. All
you can be is Roberto. And so like when it really feels like this is like an authentic, like voice for you. And I thought that was really cool. And I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Was that something that you had intention of, or like, is it just something that came out?
At first, it was kind of, I wanted to kind of just be me. And then, like I was mentioning earlier, like a lot of people were like
shitting on you.
Yeah, yeah. And then, like, I wrote some other songs that were like, okay, I'm gonna start sounding like this or sounding like that. But I'm gonna be honest, I listened back to some of those, and I'm like, this is complete crap. I can't do this. I'm not these guys. Fuck that.
And I think what's cool about that is that's hard to do, because when people are telling you like this sucks, there's literally no worse feeling in the world. And the more true to yourself something is, like the more you work to make something true to yourself, and then people tell you it sucks, like that hurts. You know what I mean? And so I think that it's like, I feel like this word is thrown around, but it's like brave to do that in a world of art where like there's so many options, and like there is almost like this forced conformity that we're seeing now in the arts. And so it's cool that you guys are still willing to do that and be different. Did you feel like did you feel like you were picking up on that when you reached out to join the band?
When I hear music that isn't like everyone else, but at the same time sounds like, if it sounds like it's influenced by the stuff that I grew up listening to or that I currently listen to or whatever, if it sounds influenced by the stuff I like while also being its own thing, that is a big green flag for me. Recently joined a group called Wireless Connection, who's also just one guy. And his music is very like emo pop. It's very like All Time Low, Nox, sort of artists that have come out, or not necessarily come out, but have released music within the past 5 to 10 years that is that went mainstream, but is also very like alternative rock oriented. And I heard that and I was like, well, this is cool too. So I like the different stuff, but I also like the more mainstream stuff, so long as it it enables me to feel inspired. I'm into it,
Do you guys remember what your first show was like? What was that? What was that experience like, bringing on new blood, and then also kind of how was it for you to go on with people who had already played shows or done their thing, or obviously sifted through like 40 people?
That would be an example of a show that was nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
And there was barely anyone there. I would say there was maybe 20 people.
Yeah, not only that, our drummer decided, yeah, I'm not in this band anymore.
Yeah. So we had to use our then keyboardist to be spare drums.
So who played keyboard?
Nobody. Just fuck it. Just do what we can.
Just do what you can. And so there were 20 people there. Were you on a lineup, or was it just you guys?
We were on a lineup.
How hard is it to find shows nowadays to be on?
Yeah, some shows are now easier. So like if I'm playing the Midway Cafe, the Jungle, like stuff like that, like maybe the Middle East, but that one, it just really depends scheduling. But for like other stuff, like a house show or other stuff like that, like maybe it's gotten like harder because like I'll be like contacting them and all that jazz, trying to talk to other bands too, and nobody just says anything, and I'm like, dang, do we really suck that bad?
I mean, that's got to kind of come along with the doing your own thing, right? Is like you don't really fit in with anybody else, and so it must be difficult for you guys to find shows where you fit on.
And I would also say with the house show thing, so that band that I was in before I started doing the cover thing, which was before Ice Lemonade, they were a part of sort of a DIY circuit of bands called Hillside Bistro, and they had to do a lot to make sure that, like, okay, we're not going to be disturbing the neighborhood, you know what I mean? And then get the cops called. And that, when you have bands that play loud shows in basements, that's hard. It's really hard to put that on. And also it's the fact that, these circuits are put on by college students that have other things going on outside of music. And
running from the cops is like half the fun of a basement show, though.
Yeah.
Maybe not for the band, but for the audience.
If you can avoid it, though, that's better. If you can avoid it, though, that's better.
Heck, we'll give them a free show.
How do you deal with like bad venues, low pay, poor promotion? Like, what is it like dealing inside of the music scene now? Where you're kind of in this middle ground where you're not quite a DIY band, but you're also not to a point where you're touring, right?
Yeah.
So like how is it dealing with the other pieces of the music industry?
Honestly, we just do what we can. Like a few shows ago, like literally one band just dropped. And then I contacted another band that I knew, and I was like, "Hey, you guys want to jump on this bill?" They're like, "Yeah." I think it was 3 or 2 days before. "Hey, yeah, we're not doing that. Sorry." And I'm like,
things change on a dime. It's like that.
And then I asked another person that we shared a bill with like years ago, like, "Kay, you want to be on the bill?" And he's like, "Yeah." And then, we get to the show, and then it's supposed to be 4 acts, 2 people, like acoustic guitar, and 2 bands. One of the guys with acoustic guitar did not read the group chat at all and didn't show up at the beginning. So the second acoustic guy was like, "Okay, I'm just going to go first so we can get the show started." And then the guy shows up while we're on, and I thought he was just, okay, he's just going to go last. So I announced the next band. And it's also because of this guy that we had to actually cut our set short because he was complaining that we were about to go over. And then right as the next band starts setting up, he just leaves. And I'm like, "What?"
Yeah.
So are you finding a lot of that in sort of the scene overall? Is that there's a lot of just kind of like difficulty to navigate?
It happens all the time. And it's not just us. Like, we played a show at Cantab Lounge.
Oh my God.
And one of my there was a band formed from a few of my best friends from college. They were called Allure. They've since disbanded just because of, they have lives, that they have to live. The singer went to Pennsylvania to study medical stuff, and the drummer wants to focus on studio work. So they were on the bill with us, all right, and there was this acoustic duo that were waiting on a keyboard player to show up for one song, and since they were late, they made us go on first, which wasn't a big deal, but we did have to cut our set down by one song. Again, happens all the time. And we were super late to start, and so they went on late. They played their whole set. All right, it's common courtesy to just be on time by, cutting your set short. It's what you do. They played their whole set, and as a result of that, my friend's band, Allure, they only got to play 4 songs.
What's a standard set? How many songs?
Like 8.
So they basically cut their shit in half?
Yeah.
We were not pleased with them, and especially the attitude that they had too was just not.
Yeah.
I think they yelled at us at one point. We're like, "Can you get this drum kit set up now?"
No, they yelled at me actually.
Oh, okay.
So, because lives happen, all the drummers for all the bands, they're all late. Mm-hmm. But our drummer, he was going to provide the kit. So, and I've had a little experience setting up drums, drum teching for my brother's band when he had a band at the time, and the work I do now. So I'm like, okay, I'll try and set it up best I can. But our drummer sets it up differently than I've seen, and I, for some reason, just couldn't get in my head how to properly set it up, and there's no drummers to help. And then some of the other band members or from other bands are like, hey, can we help out? And I'm like, okay, you can do this, whatever. They just look at it and they're like, oh man, that looks tough. And then they just walk away. And then...
Who can blame them when it's... Yeah.
And then one of the ladies from this band, they come up and they're like, hey, we're supposed to start sound checking in like 10 minutes. Why can't you set it up right now? I'm like, lady, I'm not the drummer. I'm doing my best. You want to help? Pick something up. And she's like, well, can't you just go any faster? I purposely went slower right after. But it was at that moment one of the other drummers came up, and then we were like, okay, let's get this set up, man. Let's go.
You got it done. I mean, realistically, these shows aren't the end of the world, right? It's like people got to take it a little too seriously sometimes, huh?
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of times people forget that, ultimately we're here to have fun, right?
Yeah. and I'd say probably, the only time we really, actually, of course we take everything seriously. But the time we really have to buckle down is when we're actually when we're actually just playing the music. In terms of the setup and everything, that's when we can kind of just just be
when we're actually up there performing. That's our fun time.
What do you think needs to change in music? All of that. What do you think is the thing that could stop sort of that stress, sort of that overarching kind of tension?
Where a lot of people that I've seen are still too busy trying to get the next hit. Gotta sound like this. Gotta sell my song to the next, song, big act so I can make the money off that. But where's the fun in it not anymore, dude? Come on, man.
Man, you can't do music for the money. You just can't. There's a certain amount of people on this earth. The probability that you're gonna go big is less than 1 in 8 billion or whatever
it's winning the lottery.
Yeah.
It's more than winning the lottery.
So you just can't do it for the money if you're
going to be an artist.
Not
only that is if staying it's not only getting there, it's then staying on top.
Yeah.
I know Taylor Swift gets a lot of shit, but she just consistently put out songs for the last 20 years. You know what I mean? And
she also has an incredibly dedicated fan base, and a lot of people are really into her music.
But I feel like she's earned that. She's stayed on top. She's done the work. She's gone out on shows. She puts on good
She's
concerts.
easily the smartest business woman in the music industry, right. I think. for better or for worse.
Right.
And that leads me into a conversation that I wanted to have on the podcast about pop music. Pop is short for popular. I don't know exactly. I know that titles of genres of music are made organically, right? In other words, radio stations or fan bases, they call it a certain thing and it sticks. I don't know exactly how it started for pop music, but certainly now pop music is short for popular music because it's made to be mainstream. It's not made to be different. It's not made to be alternative. It's not made to be a different flavor. It's supposed to be made to be pleasurable to listen to because it follows a certain structure, and that's what it is. And if it's not that, it can't possibly be pop. It can be frustrating for a lot of musicians now. I mean, you listen to... I remember I was on a work shift for bartending and I was just about to leave and I was talking to my coworker. This was like summer 2022. And I look at him and I go, what genre of music follows this structure? Intro, verse, chorus, maybe a bridge, chorus, maybe another chorus, end. And he thinks for a moment and he goes, country music. And I'm like, you bet that's what it is. Because it all follows the same sort of structure because it works. And that's what's mainstream. And that's what works for that, genre of music. That's what gets people hooked onto it. It's easy to listen to. You know what trend I've seen recently? There's no longer a third chorus in a lot of music. In a lot of indie stuff. It goes maybe an intro, verse, chorus, maybe a second verse, chorus, maybe there's some like pre or post sections in there, and then there's a bridge section, and then oftentimes the song will end there.
I think so. First off, I think pop music. I think when you're talking about pop music, you can almost define anything as pop if it's just what's popular at that time. You know what I mean? Like at one point, rock and roll was the counterculture, and pop music was the popular music. Whatever. As you move on, now rock and roll, country, all of those things are just pop music at this point. There is the counterculture is no longer. Like, there isn't really a strong countercultural movement in music right now that I know of. Granted, I'm not young, and that's usually where it comes from, and so maybe I'm just missing something. But it doesn't seem like... I mean, you mentioned Post Malone. That's sort of like the last... He was, like, countercultural, right? Because he dressed like a hobo, but he still had a beautiful voice and whatever.
Yep. And his music was good.
Yeah. But, I mean, I think... I don't feel like music has, like, that counterculture anymore. There isn't really a strong... place, and so everything just kind of is its own version of pop music now. I mean, you still have bands like yourselves or like hardcore bands that I can think of, some punk music, like, but even hardcore is becoming almost to the point of mainstream now.
And that's not to say that's not to say that the fact that pop music is what it is inherently bad. It's made to be pleasurable to listen to. That's a great thing,
right?
How it affects maybe bands that are just starting up or artists that get inspired to make a certain kind of music, right, that isn't mainstream. It can be frustrating because then it's like they want to make music like that because they want people to enjoy it. They want the radio attention, or they want the attention. They want to expand their community that listens to their music.
Well, I think you kind of like you were touching on that. So I create social media content for people. Like that's my job.
Yeah.
And what you see in that situation is you see, it's like we know how to go viral at this point. Like like going viral is not really like it doesn't have the benefit that it once did, for one thing. But it also isn't like this formula that nobody understands anymore, right? Like you see it all the time when you see like, slop content, when you see the guy playing fucking Subway Surfer right on the bottom half of a screen. And then you see like a girl with huge tits looking at something under a sheet, right? It's like, we know how to get lots and lots of views on something. We know the math that it takes to make something go viral. But does that make it good or worthwhile or worth making? And that's sort of the question, right?
Depends on your perspective.
Right. And if music is like this thing that, like, ultimately all art should be like, you should make art because you want to express yourself or you want something else to come out of it. Like, you should.
If you're, hey, it's the best of both worlds. If you listen to pop music and you go, I want that.
Nobody ever started
here.
When you picked up a guitar when you were 7-year-old, you were not like, I cannot wait to become commercially viable. You know, like, nobody, when you listen to Paranoid for the first time, thinks to themselves, wow, he probably sold so many albums. Wow. It's like, oh no, this dude feels something that I feel too. Right. Or like, maybe you don't Paranoid, but like, when you listen to music and when you listen to these things, like, I feel like that's why Taylor Swift was so popular. Just as an example, is like, she connects with a certain demographic in a way that nobody else is connecting with them, right? When I listened to, Blood for Blood when I was a kid, and they were talking about how much they fucking hate society and how much they hate themselves and, like, how much they want to break things around them for no reason. Like, nobody else had ever felt. They felt like I was the only one who ever felt like that. And so to listen to music where they were talking about these things that I thought I only felt on the inside is like a level of refreshing that I cannot explain. And so, like, that is the purpose of music, right?
As a guitarist who started with pop punk because of the energy,
well, that was to get girls,
and the melody,
that was for the chicks,
like, and discovering, like, wow, I don't have to be good on guitar to, well, okay, you have to be a certain level of good on guitar, but to be not this crazy virtuoso.
I've known a lot of
pop
punk guys. They do not know. If you the level of musical theory that the vast majority of, like, punk, hardcore, metal, pop punk guys know is, like, bare minimum. It's not like we're not talking about a bunch of musical geniuses, right? We're talking.
I would say that isn't entirely true. Like, there are plenty of bands that can get super technical, even pop, even super pop.
I would argue most of the ones that you like, Blink-182, when their songs first started going big, I bet you they could not tell you anything about music. Maybe they can now, and as they became big and they became whatever, like, maybe they learned more. But most of those bands started off, they played the things that they wanted to play, and they were just having a good time.
I don't know. Who's to say? I mean, it's their music and it's their view. I mean, I know that, those guys, they grew up listening to bands like Descendants and Fugazi and a lot of those super classic skate punk bands. And then Travis Barker, he was just into everything. He was super into everything.
See, I think Travis Barker is an outlier in that sense.
I remember watching this documentary of Tom as from Ernie Ball, and I think the quote was when he made the realization that Travis was like a third songwriter for the band. It was like a nuclear bomb in the studio, and that's kind of how it made Enema the State. That album that had All the Small Things and What's My Age Again and an Adam song on it. And the way he structures grooves and
But I don't believe any of them went to, like, music school. None of them.
Oh, no, they didn't.
But that's what I'm saying is, like, the idea of, like, musical theory in a lot of these bands that are very popular.
Oh, I mean, like, yeah, they weren't educated. They looked at it and went, okay, I'm supposed to play. Maybe they had lessons somewhere. Maybe they were taught by a friend down the street, like, okay, you pick this up, or a family member, and they go, okay, this is how you shape this chord, and okay, here's this song, right? Here's this tab. Here these numbers mean that's the fret, all right? And if it's on this section of this 6 lines, that's the string that you're supposed to do it on. And then here are here's where your fingers are supposed to go for that part. Go ahead and learn that. And that's kind of how I would imagine a lot of those punk guys learned.
Even using tabs as a man who comes from the musical education background. I mean, when I was a kid, using tabs we weren't in the very limited guitar playing that I did. Using tabs was heavily frowned upon by basically everybody in who took music seriously, other than me and my friends who were playing in guitar and like in garage bands or fucking doing dumb shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you come from like a academic musical background?
I'm actually a mix of both. I'm gonna be real honest with you. Like, in terms of like my first instrument, it was actually the trombone and band. But then when I wanted to like pick up guitar, pick up a bass, honestly, I picked up a bass because I thought it would be great if my dad could teach me, and that's how I taught. And like you, I was like, I don't know, I don't want to do music. I just want to play songs. So I learned from the tab, but it wasn't until later that I was like, maybe I should actually like take this seriously. Not just for me, but because I also started teaching music, and I was like, I wouldn't be a good teacher if I didn't take this a little seriously. But because like at the time I was also trying to learn how to produce video games, and first day of video game class, teacher's like, okay, who's gonna produce music or produce video games? Yeah, you should pick a different career path. And I'm like, cool, awesome. But honestly, like when I did like really start taking it seriously, like academically, as I kept going, I was finding more of like the love for it. But then like at the time, I could pinpoint 3 artists that like really like sent me down on like, nah, you need to be on music. And that was George Gershwin, Joe Hisaishi, and Richard Cheese.
Richard Cheese?
Richard Cheese.
Oh, Richard Cheese is awesome.
He is probably like, you get on the Richard Cheese lifestyle, you know?
Okay, I'll check it out.
But it was like not until I got here that like when I looked at everything I did academically, I was kind of like, dude, I'm kind of like an asshole. So I kind of like threw a bunch of that away because I'm like, I don't want to be an asshole, dude. That would suck. Because like because you guys we were talking about the pop music and whatnot, and while I do think like maybe those punk bands like didn't know it, like how to do the chords and everything, but I do think as they were experimenting and playing around, they were starting to feel like the extra stuff. Like Marty Freeman, he can just do the roots as the bass player for both Operation Ivy and Rancid. He could just do it, but at the same time, he was just experimenting around and being like, okay, this sounds cool. This sounds cool. Let's do it like this. And I think it was later till he started like, oh, I was doing this walking line in this key or whatever.
Yeah, I think a lot of the like at least a lot of my favorite music just comes from people who were just fucking around.
Yeah.
And then maybe they learned it afterward, but originally it was just something that they had inside them that they had to get out, and then they let it out.
Yeah.
More so than they thought, like, okay, so if you take like the G and then you go to, I don't know anything about musical theory, so I can't really fucking even formulate something that sounds plausible at this point, but I'll let you use your imaginations on that one.
Yeah.
I'm curious, so you guys have a show coming up on November 1st.
Mm-hmm.
What can people expect from Ice Lemonade and the Apple Snaps?
Expect a dang good old time. Night of little comedy, but most of all, indie rock and punk music.
Anything that they've never seen before?
Well, I was going to say, if you never saw a man eat his own head, you're not going to see that night. I'm going to be real honest with you.
But you might see a man eat his own ass.
Maybe.
You don't look that flexible.
Hey, man, get me fucked up at Applebee's. Let's see what we can
do. All right, awesome, guys. Where can people find your shit? Where do you want to send people to? Where can people listen to what you guys do? Yeah, so if you want to stay up to tune to everything about the band, we're on Instagram. Got a link tree. Our YouTube is starting to get more active because we didn't have time to talk about it, but your LinkedIn? No. I mean, we could, but
I said Linktree.
Oh, I was like, your LinkedIn is starting to get. What
Yeah.
the fuck kind of corporate rock?
Yeah, dude. My official job title on
Look at him
LinkedIn
over
is
there.
Pussy Slayer.
He's dying over there.
Yeah, dude. I'm like Pussy Slayer and Wizard on LinkedIn. But we're actually, our music is actually in a video, or not in one, but in 2 video games. One was where we actually like put songs in, and one we wrote for the game, and the other is just like we got some of the music that we have and like put it in the game because you can import songs there. So we're on YouTube, and then our actual music, if you want to listen to it by itself, we're on SoundCloud right now, but we're working on getting on the Spotify title, all that jazz.
Yep.
Even though I know it feeds the robot AIs, I'm gonna be real. A lot of people are like, okay, but I have Spotify. That's all I use.
Well, you have it's funny that you have SoundCloud because there's like the generic or there's like the SoundCloud rapper stereotype. So you are kind of like a SoundCloud rapper, even though you tried to get out of that lifestyle.
Yeah, I guess so.
SoundCloud punk rocker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome, guys. Thank you so much for sitting down and chatting with me. I'm really looking forward to the show. Guys, if you're listening, do yourselves a favor. Go over, check out their Instagram. I can promise you that they're doing something that you haven't heard before. So thank you guys and everyone for listening. Mwah! We'll talk to you guys later.